Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, Mr. Petkovsky, Mr. Isjanovicki, hopefully, it's an honor for me to be able to speak to you this morning at the International Strategy Conference here in Macedonia. And I especially would like to thank you for the beautiful evening yesterday. Over the last 2 days, we have already heard a lot about strategies. And this morning, Mr. Brunner told us something about a special non-strategic approach. I actually want to start a little bit different. I would like to pose some questions to you, and I would like to ask you to discuss these questions with your neighbor. Hopefully you have one. The questions. Looking back at your school time, at growing up in your parents' house, at your education, do you remember anything in particular that had a significant influence on the rest of your life? What was this decisive moment, this special learning experience in your life? What role did your mother, your father, your teacher, your trainer, or probably your professor play? How were things different for you after this learning experience? Please discuss with the person on your right or the person sitting next to you, and you will have 3 minutes time for it. Please start. In Dresden, a similar international strategy conference on occupational safety and health to the one here took place. This conference was organized by my institution, the German Social Accident Insurance, in cooperation with WHO, ILO, ISA, EU OSHA, ICO, that's the International Commission on Occupational Health, and the International Association of Labor Inspection, IALI. At the strategy conference in Dresden, the policy fields of education, work, and public health were discussed in terms of a pillar. You can see the pillars there on the picture, with equal weighting that can be used strategically to develop a prevention culture. Thus, education, or mainstreaming OSH into education, is no longer seen just as a part and parcel of the school curriculum, as it was in the first community strategy, 2002 until 2006, but rather education is understood as its own policy field with its own set of rules that must be followed if a common prevention culture is to be developed. Maybe some of you will know the people on this picture. I get a little bit small, it's my fault. It's Mr. Eichendorff, the Deputy General Director of the German Social Accidents Insurance, and it's Hans-Horst Konkulewski, General Secretary of ISA. Culture of prevention. The model of Edgar Schein is a well thought out and well-known approach to understanding prevention culture and what the role of education is in prevention culture. Schein differentiates between three cultural layers. There are first the artifacts, the artifact layer. If you are looking on the onion, it's the area outside. What's meant by this? That are the tangible, the visible elements such as the architecture, for example, of this building, or the layout of the room, like this nice room here. It's your language is an artifact, the history of your organization, technology, and a tradition. The second layer he is differentiating to are the espoused or assumed values. This layer describes normative objectives such as, for example, the mission statement of your organization or an enterprise. The third level, and that's exciting and important for us, is the level with the implicit assumptions. These implicit assumptions are not directly recognized or tangible. These implicit assumptions represent the real essence of the culture. You can see it's the core of the onion. These implicit assumptions are strongly influenced by the cultural and family environment in which we are born, by our upbringing, and by our childhood experience. Or to use the words of the second European Community Strategy, 2007 until 2012. Quotation, primary education plays an important role since basic preventive reflexes are developed during childhood. At the strategy conference in Dresden, the argument was put forward that the development of a prevention culture has to start early on. The foundation for a culture of prevention has to already be laid down in the family home, in preschool, and in primary school. The implicit assumptions for how we handle ourselves and deal with others are formed in this early stage of life. It's definitively not a coincidence that this statement was made at the conference by the director of the European agency, Krista Sedlacek. You can see her on the picture there. EU OSHA has tirelessly promoted the integration of safety and health into education in the past. Examples of this are the Safe Start campaign from 2006 and numerous reports, of which I would like to mention in particular the mainstreaming report in 2004. And if it is correct, this report is just translated into the Macedonian language, the curriculum report 2009, and the report on teacher training from 2012. The European Network, Education and Training in OSH, ENETOSH, and the European Agency are working closely together. The ENETOSH network was founded in Bilbao, where the agency is placed as well, and my colleague at that time, Tim Tregenza, you met him yesterday, always said there must have been something in the water in Bilbao to have come up with the idea for the ENETOSH network. The European Commission provided the start-up of the ENETOSH network and helped ENETOSH a lot to establish our basis. By the way, it was Ömer Sert's colleagues, he's sitting there, Ömer Sert's colleagues from the Turkish Ministry for Labor who made a particularly significant contribution to getting things started at the National Anatosh Network in Turkey. And this network is an excellent example for our work at that time. Moshe has been a member of Anatosh since 2006, and in early 2012, Nikola Georgiev took up the role of Anatosh ambassador for Macedonia. The network is coordinated through my institute. I'm the coordinator of Anatosh, and Davorin Kacian from Croatia is the coordinator of our steering committee. The basic principle of Anatosh has always been that safety and health must be integrated into education at all levels. In the kindergarten, school area, at the level of initial vocational education and training, at university level or higher education as it is written there, and at the level of continuing vocational education and training. To sum it up, occupational safety and health is an integral part of lifelong learning. The current European Community strategy states that it is important to develop, quotation, a risk prevention culture in training programs at all levels of education and in all fields. And it looks like that this will also hold true for the future community strategy 2013 until 2020. Quotation, integration of OSH into educational programs at all levels, for example, schools and universities. It's taken from a document of the Advisory Committee for Safe and Health at the European Commission that it's published already since 2011. The question is, what is the best approach to deal with this issue, mainstreaming OSH into education? In Europe, we have been working for more than 20 years now on mainstreaming OSH into education. It's somehow unbelievable. The leading approach in the meantime to this is what is known as the holistic approach. This is a kind of management approach which covers the whole educational establishment. The learning content, what we normally call curricula, the learning and work environments, the school management, advanced teacher training, the students, the parents, and even the entire community. I'd like to pose the question again. What do you think would happen if you tried to develop a safety culture, a culture of prevention in a school, and the school caretaker wouldn't get involved? What do you think? The answer? Nothing at all. It's that easy with this complicated term, holistic approach. EOSHA is now going to publish a new report on this topic titled A Whole School Approach to OSH and Education, which will include examples of good practice from across Europe. These examples you can already download from the Anatosh internet platform. But it's important to note that there's much more behind this holistic approach. Namely, we have a paradigm shift at the moment because it's no longer just about education promoting safety and health, but rather safety and health are recognized as a means of promoting quality in education. Oops. When taken from this perspective, safety and health has the opportunity to become part of the core business of, for example, a school or university. Or to put it more simply, if you feel better, you learn better. My organization, the German Social Accident Insurance, has developed a concept for integrating safety and health into education, which has gained worldwide recognition in the meantime. The name of this concept is Good Healthy School. According to this concept, developing a culture of prevention contributes to the quality of an educational institute, a school, a university. As such, health and safety is seen as a tool that serves the school and not the other way around. However, there is one core requirement, and it's not too easy with this core requirement for the success of this approach, because OSH experts have to become passionate about the pedagogical aspect. Now I will mention some necessities to have a strategy to integrate OSH into education. At the policy strategic level, an integrative approach is needed to mainstream OSH into education. The policy fields I mentioned at the start, work, education, and public health, must be dealt with together. This means there have to be common programs for mainstreaming OSH into education. An OSH institute cooperates with the Ministry of Education, and the Ministry of Health will work together on a joint program, underline, joint program, and then works together with preschools, schools, universities, and vocational institutions. One example for this, and I only will mention it briefly, is the pre-employment training program of Singapore. And I would strongly recommend the OSH Council of Macedonia to contact the colleagues in Singapore, because they have already ready such a program, and you can cooperate with them on how to use it for Macedonia. Another form of cooperation is the cooperation between different schools and universities. Susanne Ulk successfully implemented this type of project with school ambassadors in Denmark, and if you would like to chat with her about that, she's just sitting over there. A second kind of rule for such a strategic approach is the long-term approach. Then we shouldn't have any illusions here. Implementing programs to develop a culture of prevention involves processes that cross generations. There is no place for activism when looking at values, attitudes, and personal beliefs. Our experience from the German joint OSH strategy is less is more. And according to the upcoming new community strategy, we have clear priorities for our new national strategy, and we have limited ourselves to 3 core work programs with guidelines, and that's interesting for us here, with special training programs to implement these guidelines directly in Germany into the labor inspectorates and into the statutory accident insurance institutions. Therefore, for the first time in Germany, education and training is directly integrated into our new strategy. The third rule or kind of approach is participative, to be participative. The success of programs for developing a prevention culture depends on everyone who is involved having equal participation. Therefore, to be politically coherent is not enough. And last but not least, in addition to the European exchange, it is becoming more and more important to have international cooperation. This can be seen in the context of the EU enlargement. This can be seen from the view of cooperation with traditional international partners such as the USA or new partners in the emerging countries. How do we get OSH specialists excited about pedagogical programs. And with this question, I would like to close. In November last year, the NHOSH network, together with EU OSHA, ILO, ISA, and NIOSH, that's the National OSH Institute of America, organized a conference on mainstreaming OSH into education. Towards a culture of prevention was the title of the conference at the ILO Training Center in Turin. As part of this conference, we founded an international working group to transfer the concept of good, healthy school to the education systems in other countries. You can find information about this working group at the NHOSH website. If you are interested to work together with this group with implementing such a holistic approach in Macedonia and in the other countries, please contact us. It's possible and we are open for all of you. Finally, I would like to warmly invite you to join the 20th World Congress on Safety and Health at Work 2014, Global Forum for Prevention. Our institution will be the host of this World Congress next year, and NHOSH will develop and will carry out at this World Congress together with the Canadian Centre for Occupational Health and Safety and in cooperation with the National Association of Organizations in OSH of the Russian Federation, a special symposium on the topic of creating a safe and healthy learning environment. And again, you are warmly invited not only to take part in this symposium, but if you would like to get involved in its preparation. Thank you very much for your time today, and I'm really excited to see you again in Frankfurt.